Hi, my name is Kristi Wees, and I'm the Consumer Engagement Director with Mountain States Regional Genetics Network. Welcome to our virtual pop-up, our virtual genetics pop-up. You might be wondering what a genetics pop-up is, but don't worry, I will tell you in just a moment. First, I'd like to start off with our disclosure about our funding. We are funded through the Health Resources Service Administration, or HRSA, and it's in the Department of Health and Human Services, HHS. We thank them for their continued support, and if you have any other information about that funding, you can visit hrsa.gov. So you might be wondering who Mountain States Regional Genetics Network is first, and so I thought I would tell you about who the organization that I work with represents. Mountain States Regional Genetics Network is a genetics network that is comprised of 8 states. We are one of 7 regional genetics networks in the United States. You can see us there in the light yellow shading. Here's the arrow to help you find us. And we cover an area of over 1 million square miles. As I said, there's 8 states that make up our region, from Texas, New Mexico, Arizona, Nevada, Utah, Colorado, Wyoming, and up to Montana. And our mission really is to ensure that individuals with genetic disorders and their families have access to quality care and appropriate genetic expertise and information. And we do this through the facilitation of a professional network. That network includes genetics clinics and geneticists who work there, and genetic counselors, key primary care practices, pediatricians, primary care physicians, nurses and nurse practitioners, consumer advocates or family members or individuals with genetic conditions, and those who work in the state health department. Here's another way of looking at who comprises the Mountain States Regional Genetics Network. Each one of these circles represents one of those groups that I just talked about. And collectively, they make up Mountain States Regional Genetics Network's customers or members. We are organized by 2 methods within our state teams. Within Mountain States, we have state teams and we have genetic ambassadors. Our state teams are comprised of individuals from each of those circles there that live and work and are impacted by genetics in their state. And then we have our genetic ambassadors group, which is another group that is comprised specifically of individuals, families, and consumers who are impacted and living with genetic conditions. This group meets to learn advocacy, or to talk about advocacy, do leadership training, and collaborate with others in other states in our region. So I know you're wondering what a genetics pop-up is. A genetics pop-up is when one of our genetic ambassadors from our regional network shares in their own community. They literally pop up in their own community with resources, educational materials, and information about genetic services for individuals and their families. As I said, right there in their own local community. This might look like inviting early childhood intervention folks. This might look like inviting other families who might be impacted by genetic conditions, medical professionals, or even those who might work at a daycare or a church nursery. Individuals that have impact on families and have connection with families who might be able to share information that is important about genetics with families. So we usually do these in person, and when we do these in person in a physical location, we send to the genetic ambassador a gene in the box. And this is a box filled with resources and information and handouts and brochures about genetics. They come from all over. They come from our region, they come from national resources, and they come from state resources. And we literally call this a gene in the box because the fuzzy guy in the middle there is our stuffed gene that we put inside each box. Today, though, instead of mailing this box to the genetic ambassador who's hosting this genetics pop-up, we will be sharing these resources electronically. Here's where you can find these resources. You can find them on our website, which is just mountainstatesgenetics.org. And there's a For Families tab, and you can use the drop-down and find genetics pop-up and then click on the gene in the box. One other way that you might be able to access these resources is to use what we call a QR code. This is this black and white code here that's on the screen, and you can take out your cell phone. Many cell phones are enabled on the camera function. You can just act like you're taking a picture with your phone of that black and white square, and it will open up into your web browser that's on your phone, if it's a smartphone, the website where all of these resources are found. So I'll give you just a second to try that out if you'd like to do that. Otherwise, you can navigate to it on our website. If you do not have that function on your phone and your it's not doing anything when you take a picture of it or acting like you're taking a picture of it, you might need to go to the App Store or the place where you download apps for your phone, and you can then get a QR code reader. Q is in Queen, R is in Ronald, reader, QR reader. Alrighty, we are going to do a top 5 today, David Letterman style. We're going to count down backwards, and we are going to highlight some of the Gene in the Box resources that we share when we mail this box physically when we're having an in-person pop-up. But since we're doing it electronically today, these are all available on our website. So the fifth top genetic resource is these curriculums on genetics for students in middle school and high school. So these are have been put together from the NIH, and it's part of their NIH curriculum supplement series. So they don't just have these two, they have many, many other curriculums on their website, which I would encourage you to take a look at in all types of topics of science. But these two are specifically interesting to us who are interested in genetics, because these specifically focus on genetic topics. The first one in purple there is the Rare Disease and Scientific Inquiry curriculum, and that is for children in grades 6 through 8. And then they have the Human Genetic Variation curriculum there in turquoise for grades 9 through 12. Both of these curriculum are ready to go. They can be handed right to a science teacher. It includes activities, labs that can be done, articles to read. It's a full curriculum and teacher ready. They can be ordered as a hard copy, downloaded as a PDF, and they are available on the NIH's website. The number 4 top genetic resource comes from Genetic Alliance, and this is a set of 2 guides, 2 booklets, a guide to family health history and a guide to genetics and health. What I love about this resource is it is available both in English and Spanish. Both books are. They are available as PDFs online, and they can be downloaded, but they are very simple and very understandable for individuals at all different levels. You do not need to have a scientific degree to understand the genetics and health topics that are discussed in these books. So it's great to share with families, grandparents, aunts and uncles, because it really talks about how a genetic condition may be impactful to the rest of the family. Again, those are available online. You can get them at the Genetics Alliance website, or we have them linked on our Gene in a Box site. Down in the left-hand corner, there is an example of one of the pictures and one of the diagrams showing that, from our hand, from our skin, we have cells. Those cells contain chromosomes, and in those chromosomes are DNA. So very simple and very easy to understand graphics as well. Number 3, this one was just added recently because it was just announced it was just debuted in April 2020, this documentary about the gene. It's by Ken Burns, and it's called The Gene and Intimate History. It was shown on PBS, and it aired, as I said, in April 2020. It was a 2-part series, and the award-winning producer, Ken Burns, who's done many, many documentaries, was the producer of it. It is available free to watch at this website listed here, but you can also just Google Ken Burns, The Gene, and PBS, and you will find the site very easily. This gives a great overview with families who have children with rare genetic conditions. They talk with the families, they talk with the researchers, and they talk with the physicians alike. So it's really a great way to understand genetics and their impact on our lives. Number 2, so the top genetic resource is actually a location called GARD, which is the Genetic and Rare Disease Information Center. They work virtually though, so no need to jump in the car to go there. This is out of the NIH as well, and it is from the National Center for Advancing Translational Sciences. They actually have a hotline where individuals can get information about genetic condition. This is the number right here on the screen, 1-888-205-2311. And it is a hotline that's available in English and Spanish, and it's available Monday through Friday, noon to 6 p.m. Eastern Time. When you call this hotline, it will be answered by a genetic counselor who can give you information about specific genetic conditions. They cannot give medical advice and they cannot make a diagnosis, but it's a great place to go if you or a loved one has been diagnosed with a genetic condition and you're looking for some more information about that. Perhaps you're looking for a support group, for a clinical trial, or for a specialist that is studying that disorder. They can help you do the research to find this information through the resources they have available at the National Institutes of Health. It is really a great resource, and I do recommend it no matter if you've just recently gotten a diagnosis or you've been on been living on a genetic path for a long time. It's a great way to keep up with the most recent findings in the research, and they can connect you with some great information. And we have reached number 1. So last but not least is our top genetic resource. Number 1 is Mountain States Regional Genetic Network's developmental delay algorithm. This project came out of a finding out in our region, in our 8-state region, one of the highest referral categories to genetics was for individuals and children who had a developmental delay diagnosis. And because of our shortage of geneticists in our region, this was leading to very long wait times for many families. And so in speaking with the geneticist, they were willing to work with us to put together a developmental delay algorithm led by geneticist Dr. Austin Larson, and he and the team of geneticists and primary care providers and consumers put together this approach to help a pediatrician begin the workup, begin the investigation into a developmental delay for genetic possibilities. And you can see here on the left, that is that document. It is meant for pediatricians and primary care providers who would be handling the care of a child. And it is in a tiered approach. So there's tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3. And it's a technical document and can go into quite a lot of details. But I share it here today with you as individuals and families who may have interest in this, because we know families can be great advocates for themselves and their children. And so this might be something you're interested in taking to your local doctor, your own child's doctor, and starting a conversation and asking them if they've considered the tests that are talked about in here. As part of that algorithm, a toolkit was developed based on the questions that the doctors and the families were asking. And so there's a lot of information in this toolkit that are specific for families, such as the handout on the right, which says genes, what they are and what they do. And this is a family-friendly handout that talks just about the basics of genetics. We also have things on there about variants of unknown significance. We have laws in certain states, some questions people have about insurance coverage and genetic testing. And so that can all be found on our website. And there's that QR code again. So I will leave this up on the screen. We are so glad that you joined us for this review of our top 5 genetic resources and for this genetics pop-up. Thank you for allowing us to pop up in your virtual event today. But here's that QR code. So if you want to go right to that place where you can look at those resources, go ahead and scan that, and you can find those resources the links to those resources on our page. And if you'd like to navigate to them through your web browser, you can just go to mountainstatesgenetics.org. We have a For Families tab, as I mentioned before, And when you click on that For Families tab, there's lots of options there. There's a Genetic Ambassador tab if you'd like to learn more about that program. There's a Your Genetics Questions Answered drop-down on the drop-down, where we've done videos with our subject matter experts about questions that families have about genetics. We have the Genetics Pop-Up drop-down where you can navigate to the Gene in a Box, and that's where all these resources are linked. We also have a resources tab with many frequently asked questions that families have about genetics and some of the links to answers there as well. So thank you again so much for joining us for this virtual genetics pop-up. We really are appreciative of your time. If you have any questions at all, or you're looking for something specific, we would be happy to help attempt to direct you to a resource that's helpful for you and your family. Here is my information. Again, I'm Kristi Wees. My email is kwees@mountainstatesgenetics.org, and our website is www.mountainstates with an S on the end, genetics with an S on the end.org. Thank you again for your time and for joining us, and please let us know how we can help. Bye-bye.